Good evening. I'd like to call this regularly scheduled meeting of the Marquette Township Board for Tuesday, December 16th, 2014 to order. If you all please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Clerk, try roll call, please.
This evening, Trustee Truscott is absent and excused. Trustee Durant.
Here.
Trustee LaRue.
Here.
Trustee Pompo.
Here.
Treasurer Johnson.
Here.
Clerk Rattari is here, and Supervisor Limata.
Here.
Staff present is Manager Gerard, Planner McCarthy, ZBA John Marks, Recreation Mike Springer, Dave Wiegand is from Recreation, Planning, and Roads. And that's it.
Thank you. The next item on your agenda is approval of the consent agenda. As you know, the consent agenda typically includes those items that do not require immediate board action. This evening's includes the approval of the prior meeting minutes of December 2nd, the received committee reports, water production report of November, the Peter White Public Library Township Advisory Council minutes of September, Sheriff's activity report from November, Fire Marshal's report of November, Marquette County Solid Waste Management Authority special meeting minutes of November 26. Also, correspondence not requiring board action include the Charter Communication Annual Report and the Charter Communication Newsletter, as well as bills payable in the amount of $204,205.02. Are there any members of the board wishing to make any corrections or pull anything out of the consent agenda? Clerk Rattari?
There's going to be a couple comments here on I'm going to add to the approval of the prior meeting minutes, the closed session of November 18 to be approved. And last evening, Trustee Durant reread her minutes from the last meeting, and there was couple grammatical fixes where it was the committee appointments, and I will take care of that. There was nothing that changes the substance of that. It's just a couple grammatical errors that need to be fixed. And that's all I have, and I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is approval of the agenda. Are there any items that the board wishes to make changes to on the remainder of the agenda? If not, I have one. It would be under 9G. That should not be there. That considered the outdoor lighting ordinance language. That was just to carry over from last meeting. That'll be addressed at the joint meeting with the Planning Commission. So I'd like to remove that, and then we will renumber or re-letter the events after it accordingly. Clerk Rattari?
How about replacing 9G with the 2015 township meeting dates? Because I have that schedule now with all the committees that have gotten back to me. And I do have that each board member has a copy at their place. And if we could replace that and get that approved, that's what I would ask, and I would make a motion to add that to the agenda in place of 9G, or replacing 9G.
I'll move to support that addition.
Support.
Change.
Is there, we have a motion to replace 9G from the outdoor lighting to the township meeting dates. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? That motion passes. Any other changes to the agenda, Clerk Rattari?
I'll make a motion to approve the regular agenda as amended.
Support.
We have motion and support to approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes. We have an approved agenda. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is public comment. Those members of the public wishing to address the board, please approach the podium, first, last name, and address. And if you kept your comments to a reasonable amount of time, that would be awesome. Anyone? Going once? Going twice? Courtney Finkbeiner? We'll close public comment. We'll go to board member comment. Those members of the board wishing to make comment may do so at this time. Lynn, start with you.
Yes, sir. I have a couple reports for you. Planning Commission last week was short and sweet. We did the meeting schedules, you can see. And we had a very interesting presentation from our intern, it was in the planning department this semester, on counting pedestrians on US 41. So I think that should be shared with the board, at, the packet and everything. I don't want to go through, it was a pretty good presentation. I'm surprised at how many people are on the highway walking. A couple hours increments, of course, different days of the week, but it was very well done. That was Mike Beck that did that, by the way. And we talked a little more about the lighting ordinance that's going to be carried over. Street lighting policy, same thing. We will discuss the capital improvement program for 15 that we wanted to put through at our next meeting. And we received an MNRTF grant for Schwemmwood for development. That was pretty exciting. I don't remember exactly what the amount was on that. And the corridor meeting we talked about, and a Lions Field update. So that was it with the Planning Commission. Library was, they had a lot on their agenda tonight. The first thing was the woman named Mary Davis would like to be our TAC representative.
I have that email.
You have that,
and have it
great.
prepared
Okay.
for this evening's appointments.
Excellent, okay. I told them I would bring it up because I knew we were having a meeting. They're making a lot of HVAC improvements, which are helping with the noise and air quality. And because it's a public facility, the library has to adhere to certain standards for those types of improvements. So it's going to cost a few bucks, but they've got quite a few recommendations on how that can be taken care of. They're also in the process of turning the Peter White Public Library Development Fund into a foundation. And it would be an endowment fund, which would be separate actually from the library itself. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because it can include, this particular board that they're trying to set up to do this, can include township residents. So if there are any township people who are interested in volunteering for a maybe 11-member board, they're not real sure of the number yet because this is just in the planning stages. It would be, it is a foundation that they want to try to establish, and they're looking at money from donors that would be like $400,000 and earmarked for something specific, and that has to be considered and handled differently than a regular donation to the library. So they have to set up this separate foundation board. So if anybody has any financial or library interests that would like to be involved with that, they can just get a hold of any of the library staff. They're going to try to put that meeting together the first of the year. They've also got some trust funds that are doing very well, and they're going to be, this particular one that they mentioned started out in 1980 at $160,000 that was donated by Carol Paul. It was a trust fund, and they massaged it over the years with different kinds of stock, moves, which is now available, it is available to them, and the value is $800,000. And they're allowed to pull somewhere between $25,000 and $35,000 a year from that and use it, but it has to be used for music, which is kind of interesting, but that was the way it was set up in the trust. So that, fortunately, they said it didn't have to be earmarked for, like, just a piano or something. They can use it for equipment, stereos, CDs, DVDs, movies, anything that they want. So it's been very beneficial for them. They also have somebody who's trying to buy a 3 or 5 foot strip, 24 foot long, between the buildings. There's a person who's bought the church adjacent to the library, and they need that piece so that they can get in and out of their driveway. So they're going to be looking at how they can get a value on that funny strip of land and still be able to access their garage. So that'd be on the third and Ridge corner. I'm thinking somewhere by the gym, around the corner from the gym. There's got to be a church there. And it's going to be it's purchased by an architect who is opening a firm here, and so he wants to kind of showcase the building to show Marquette what they can do, apparently, for his business. They also have a new webmaster who's taken hold, and she's working on changing their website. And if you want to see something spectacular, there's 77 Christmas trees in the library, all over, decorated by all different people in the community. I didn't have a chance to look at too many of them, but there's one that's seasonings, greetings, and it's got salt and pepper and cumin and garlic, and it's cool in these little ornaments. And then there was another one when I was leaving a scout troop, and it's got the Scoutmaster's shirt on top and a bunch of other little things. So if you want to see something great, go take a tour of the library and see all these trees in the corners and up and down and some really spectacular things. And they're looking for volunteers for the book sale next month. So that's it. They had a lot on their agenda.
Thanks, Lynn.
Thanks.
Ernie?
Two things. I just came from the Township Business Association meeting, their yearly meeting, get together at the year end and that, and a lot of discussion as to where they want to go and what they should be doing within the township and that. And they're trying to put together some people to do just an overview of the association itself and see what direction they should be going and how they can help the businesses within the township and that into the future and that. So the other thing they're looking at, trying to look at what they can do for the township as far as activities. And one of the ideas that's come up is utilizing the rink that we have with maybe a broom ball tournament for kids or things like this here to bring people into the community for some kind of activity for kids and that. So they're looking at different things at this point in time, and nothing's concrete. There's a lot of discussion, but they want to do something that will be beneficial to the township and that in the long run and that. And the other one is, a gentleman at the meeting asked, what's the status of the DDA within the township? He says, I was appointed to it about 6-7 months ago, and I haven't heard a thing. So I said, I'll bring it up, and I haven't heard anything about it lately either, so maybe we want to discuss it relatively, if not this meeting, at the next meeting, as to what the status is of it, and are we going to move forward on it, so.
Organizational meeting is scheduled for January 6th.
Okay, so,
12 at 6
12th at 6 o'clock. Sorry.
so this individual will be notified then.
Yep.
All of the members have received email notice about a week ago.
So if he didn't receive something, just let Randy know so that he can double check on
Okay,
that.
I'll do that. That's all I have.
Secretary?
Just would like to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I also, too, was thinking, again, this is our first full year in this facility. We've kind of started with like kind of a partial year, our first year here, but I think things have worked out really well here, and I'm very happy with this facility. And I would like to thank the residents for supporting us to get this in Fire Hall and the Public Works building. And I promise I talked to the manager, we're going to have a open house very soon, probably after the first of the year at the Public Works building for the residents to get in there and see that facility. I was in there last week, and I think it's pretty impressive. It's a nice facility, so that's all I have.
Thanks, Randy. Dan?
Well, I was going to wait till the second board comment, but I'll jump in on it and say wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year also.
Pete?
Couple of things I want to talk about is the Peter Waite Library, to pick up on what Lynn says. In their little brochure they have for the public, is they have free computer classes, one-on-one. You just have to call up there, make an appointment. They have a Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, different hours. It's a half-hour session, so for people who would like to learn a little bit more about computers, that's available to them, so. I don't know, Dennis, you're going to talk about the ice rink and the warming shop. Okay. What I want to do is, though, we spend a lot of money on trying to get the message out to the people, what's going on in the township. And you wonder if the people are listening or what. But I just wanted to thank the Mining Journal for Christine Beck. Since she come on, we've had more more articles about the ice rink, about the road project, the lighting, the tax tribunal, and dark stores, and many other things that she brought to light. And more people have been talking about it because of her reporting And I just wanted to thank her for doing that. Thank you. That's all.
Thanks, Pete. The accounts I have, those of you who live near Lions Field Recreation area have noticed the progress going, and we do have it on the agenda to have an update on Lions Field and the updates out at the ice rink. But after the most recent warm-up, we are finally, it looks like this week, being able to start to make ice, so we're hoping that it will be fully functional as from a skating standpoint, maybe as early as next week. We will receive an update on the warming shack. That's going to be a few weeks behind, but amazingly enough, I didn't think it was going to happen at all this year, and it looks like the warming shack will be up and in place. The Board of Light and Power did get the light poles placed, that they're ready to go. That electricity will be running through the warming shack, so it'll all kind of come together at once. But hopefully, sometime during the holiday season here between Christmas and New Year's, who knows, we may, have lights up. We're gonna, we bought some new equipment to make sure that we can keep it opened up so that folks can get in there. But if you haven't been there, take a walk past, go on in, take a walk around and take a look at it. Unless, of course, we're making ice, then don't walk on it. We got it cleaned out. It should be awesome. I think we're going to have the nicest ice rink in the area, and we're real excited to see just one more phase. I will remind everyone that while we were unsuccessful in our grant for the playground equipment for Lions Field, we had been setting aside money for that throughout several budget processes over the years, and we do have some playground equipment selected and set aside for us that we were able to buy at a considerable discount by purchasing at the end of the year, so we'll be completing that purchase soon. We still will be able to finish and get our new playground equipment in there as part of our long-range plans of having one of the coolest recreational areas in a residential area, so we're excited about it. Encourage all the residents and visitors alike to get out there and take a look at it. We think you'll be impressed. With that, we'll close board member comment. There is no unfinished business this evening, and we'll move to new business. Agenda item number 9A, consider the Planning Commission joint meeting dates. At the last meeting, we had discussed that asking the Planning Commission to talk about when they would like to get together, and if, like last year, a noontime worked, and apparently I think that is the choice of the Planning Commission, that we schedule something in January after the first year at noon. And so what we wanted to do with putting it on the agenda today was to find out if the board has a preference or days of the week that work best, or other days of the week that absolutely don't work. What I'd like to be able to do is make the suggestion back to the Planning Commission members through Lynn, give them a range of dates, or 3 or 4 dates maybe, or something where, so I'd just like to poll the board informally. Is there a day in the week that absolutely we should not consider?
Are we talking January or February?
in January.
January.
We know we're gonna be out the last week of January, so sometime in that, and I think the third week, I'm gonna be in, is it the third week, Lansing? Okay, so we'll be in Lansing on the third week, taking care of some township business, probably towards the end of that third week, but perhaps in that second week, if we make that suggestion to them. And are there any
Mondays are kind of tough for me, but other than that,
Mondays?
we do it if we have to.
We will make it, let's see. Yeah, actually, that's a good week for me. The 12th through the 16th, I could really do it anyway. Mondays are tough for Lynn, so does anybody have a preference from Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or should we give the Planning Commission the range the 13th through the 16th, and that we would be available?
Is there any way of putting it the first before through the 9th, with Dan leaving on the 9th?
Absolutely. I can, as of right now, I can do that. Anyone else have any conflicts through that first week?
Only conflict would be a Thursday, but I can always work around that too, so.
Well, we can offer the 6th, 7th, or 9th, Ernie, and see if, from a Planning Commission standpoint.
He's leaving the 9th.
So 6th, 7th?
6th, 7th.
How about 6th or 7th? All right. If you want to follow up, Lynn, and I will send a reminder email out to Ellen.
Sure.
And we'll we'll see if that fits their schedule.
That will be a noon meeting?
Noon meeting, probably just go from 12 to 1.
One subject, lighting?
This is just lighting, right?
Yeah, and I think we can talk about anything, but on the agenda, we'll have it as a work session, so, I mean, it can be anything, and we're not gonna take any action there, but if we list it as a work session for the board and the planning commission, you know, we can still post it, but the agenda would be, clearly the lighting is there, and then what other hot topics we want to discuss. Last year, we spent a lot of time, you know, talking about CIP, and I think that's still, you know, they're starting to ramp that up for this year, so we may want to touch base on that as well as a number of subjects. If there's nothing else, we'll move to 9B, consider the proposed Menards Recreation access easement. Jason?
Well, good evening. This is a subject that kind of been working towards during the summer months, and something that just kind of came about as a result of another proposed development. So, as you know, Dairy Queen was looking to develop an outlot in the Menards parking lot, which fell through. But in conversations with their attorneys at that time, and as the Recreation Committee has tried to in the past, acquire any kind of easement we can to get people from the Iron Ore Heritage Trail and to our businesses. So in that vein, I inquired with the folks from Menards to see if they'd be amenable to a 20-foot recreational easement going from the Iron Ore Heritage Trail across a piece of property, this small sliver of property the township acquired this summer. And although small, as it's stated in my memo, it is at grade, and so there's opportunities there to improve that with, you know, perhaps picnic table or some kind of other park amenities. There's a nice view shed. You can see Hogsback, you can see Sugarloaf and the lake from there. Over the course of a couple months and some conversations, it was agreed that Menards would allow for that easement, and subsequently, later on, the Snowmobile Club inquired as to whether or not they may be amenable to allowing snowmobiles along that easement. And then I inquired with Menards about that, and they said that they would be. So that's only during the winter months, December 1 to April 1. And that happened as a result of a closure of an existing crossing. At least in the future, it will be. I think they have temporary use of it now. So all these things take time to put together, and basically I didn't want to come to the board with this proposal until I had all the ducks lined up. But in essence, Menards is amenable to this. And with the gas station going in, we received a call from Greg Nominelli stating that if there was any improvements that needed to be made to the grade there, because it is kind of a challenging grade as it stands now, that the KBIC may be willing to contribute to improving that trail grade to assist snowmobiles to get to the gas station there. We think we've vetted all of the negative impacts at this time. Northwoods Road, per the road millage approval, is due to get reconstructed in 2017. I mean, ideally, you'd like to see a bike path on one side or the other on all the roads in the township, but that's likely not going to happen. But Northwoods Road has a lot of, as you can see, the apartment complex that's across the street here. And there's other residential neighborhoods up in, well, one net residential neighborhood up the road. But perhaps that maintenance strip could be applied at that time, which would give the shoulder of the road the ability to kind of have the snowmobiles go down that way. So essentially, what we were looking for, or staff is looking for, is a recommendation from the board as to whether or not to move forward with the easement and getting it recorded. And then if you had any questions that might have come up that I didn't think of, be certainly willing to entertain those.
Questions for Planner McCarthy? Dan?
Just out of curiosity, if that's a snowmobile trail, when they come off onto Northwoods Road to get to the gas station, will it be going down Northwoods Road?
Alongside, off the road, yes, yes.
Other questions, Ernie?
Do you foresee any questions from the apartments in there with the snowmobiles going down and with noise factor and that? Do you think there would be any there?
Potentially,
Yeah.
yes.
Do you have any idea, it may be difficult to see how many snowmobiles we may be talking about on a daily basis, or?
Well, I live on Northwoods Road, and I can say that it's fairly sporadic. My property abuts the Iron Heritage Trail. As winter goes on and more snow accumulates, it really does provide almost a sound barrier or some deadening to the noise. You know, some custom pipes are louder than others. I don't personally have a problem with it. It only lasts during the winter months. Of course, in the summertime, that would be a non-motorized trail easement only. It's designed, initially it was designed to be non-motorized. We have an inquiry from the Snowmobile Club. Thought we'd entertain that and try to keep them moving. Essentially what the blocking of the crossing near Best Buy did, or would do, is block the ability for those snowmobiles to get onto Trail 14 and up to Big Bay. The next possible connection that they can make, that connection up to Big Bay, would be in West Ishpeming.
Any questions? Randy?
Just a comment, following up on Treasurer Johnson's question about, and Trustee Pompo's question about using Northwoods. With the gas station being located there, absent this access, the only access that they would have to that gas station would be coming off the power line, which is further down Northwoods Road. They'd be on the road longer without this.
Yeah, and I talked to Jason earlier about this, and it's one of the things that I see is that we have the ability to control it somewhat, because where they used to cross has been, they've stopped. They're going to cross somewhere. They're going to come out somewhere. They're going to get there somehow. What we have now is an opportunity to help direct that, so at least we know where it's being channeled through. And this seems to be a pretty decent solution, since it was amenable to Menards especially, and Snowmobile Club is prepared to assist, KBIC is prepared to assist. I think that, and it is a low residential density area right there. They're gonna head through there anyway. This gives us the opportunity to control when and where.
If I may add just a couple more comments, had an opportunity to meet with Roger Crimmins, Aaron Johnson, Jim Iwaniki last week, at the end of the week, about the 2019 project, turn signals, median extension. And ultimately, as we all know, the goal is to put an underpass at somewhere along that stretch. And asking what the potential budget is for that project, inquired with Aaron Johnson and Joel from MDOT as to whether or not we could fund that somehow as part of that project, along with lighting. That was my two asks at that meeting for them to consider, because we do have time to plan it out. Perhaps there's grant money that we can go after for traffic enhancement, safety enhancement grants. So this is, in essence, a temporary fix, but Dennis is right in that it does allow us to channel. I know that the property owner on the north side is amenable to them crossing there and then connecting back up with their trail. That, although congested in that area, does offer better sight distance than the Best Buy crossing, which is, either one of them are not ideal, I will say. That's about as polite as I can put it. But it offers folks a chance to get gas, go across, stop at Menards, or Gander Mountain for that matter. So it does suffice the goal, and that is to get people off the trail and to our business community.
One other question, when you have this non-motorized during the summer, and looking at those apartment complexes, do they have any other way of getting to the Iron Ridge Heritage Trail right now?
No, well, not directly, no. And that's a good question, Ernie. It does offer those people in the apartment complex a fairly direct route and without too much of a grade change to get to the trail, which is a good observation. Right now, if you go further west along Northwoods Road, there's quite an elevation change once you get off of Northwoods Road, and then, you know, the railroad grade rises in some spots 30 to 50 feet.
But to me, I look at this, if this comes through on that, and the apartment complex looks at it as a positive, it's a way for them to enhance their occupancy there, because you can get to the Iron Ridge Heritage Trail relatively easy.
I'll make sure to let Jesse Schramm know that.
Jason, what do you need from us as a board to move forward? Do we need to send a letter to KBIC requesting funding for it, or how do you foresee that?
I would request two liberties. One would be that we record the draft that the attorneys put together. Once those, the survey work is done and the legal description is done, and once Menard's legal signs off on it, that we be able to record that. And two, that we ask KBIC to assist with the recording of the easement, the survey work, and the improvements proposed to the trail, which would be done in 2015.
Okay. If there's other questions, I would entertain a motion then, in that case, to direct staff to move forward with the recording of the easement for for lack of a better term, the Menards
Recreational access easement.
recreational access easement.
So moved.
Or,
Motion and support. Board member comment?
I'm looking at what their recommendation here, is that the wording that we want to utilize in that? That's in their memo from Jason?
I think as long as their motion is directing staff to move forward, I think we're okay on the easement. Anyone else? We have a motion and a second to direct staff to move forward with recording the proposed recreation access easement and to contact KBIC in the future after the easement is recorded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes. Thank you, Jason. Next item on your agenda is 9C, consider the fire department hire. Manager Gerard.
Really not a lot to add to the memo that I provided to the board. We've completed the interview process. I apologize, it wasn't in your packet. We just finished that process yesterday at about 4:30. We are recommending, the chief and I, three individuals for the appointments. Two of them present fairly significant current licensure as well as experience in firefighting and EMS, and one would be a new trainee that would be entering the training program in January.
Thanks, Randy. I will tell the board the process took a while. You recall that it was in front of us some time ago, and it was removed at the request of Chief Sims and Manager Gerard as they reviewed candidates and increased, asked the board for the increase from 30 to 35 paid on call positions. All those things were accomplished. We also kind of did a review of the hiring process to make sure that everybody was on the same page, and Manager Gerard, myself, and Chief Sims and Assistant Chief Shanahan met a couple different times and wanted to make sure that the process moving forward was not only clear-cut and sensible, but legal and followed by everybody, so that we didn't stray from our hiring processes, in order to make sure that we were doing things as legally and as fairly and even-handed as possible. So some of the delay in getting these to you, it's showing up now, and why it's on this one is because we have to act with a certain sense of urgency. One of the candidates that we're being asked to consider this evening does not have firefighter certification and need to be registered for the Firefighter 1 training program in January. So that's why it came to your agenda without a lot of, instead we didn't wait till the following agenda.
Are we doing this effective immediately? tonight?
Yes.
Yes.
That is the request, and as you'll recall, Supervisor Lehman is correct. You approved 5 additional positions. This leaves 2 available positions to be filled at the department's need.
Lynn?
Well, that's what I was just thinking then. How long is the training for this? He's not going to be a viable.
Well, no, they start right away, and Trustee Pompo can speak to this too. They start in the training, it's a 6-month process basically, but they are on staff and being
Okay.
trained.
So he's active and.
Correct.
actually looking.
We are, our requirements do not include that you have firefighter 1 or 2. It's just that you have to be willing to get that training within the first year or 2 years.
Correct.
2 years. Which means that they work under the supervision of other firefighters or officers at all times, before they're ever on a scene like that.
It's similar to an apprenticeship, basically.
Actually, they're on a probationary period. All new hires are on a probationary period. I think it's a 6-month probationary period.
Correct.
And those that don't have the class won't come off of probation until they have at least completed the class. So,
So they're doing the class in conjunction with being on site or at the
right,
hall.
they're basically, they're basically would be the last ones that get on a truck, and would not probably participate in any actual firefighting unless it was like a mop-up or something like that, where we had full control of them, until they've progressed into their training part of it.
So then, can they do anything else? Any
Oh, yeah,
extraction
they go to all the
helping?
meetings, and like I said, depending on the number of people on the truck, they could be on a first truck if there's only 4 people, but if they are in a truck, the officer in charge realizes that they're a trainee, so he's not gonna put them in any situation where he might be directing traffic or whatever in an accident case.
Other questions? Pete?
I'm glad to see 3 people step up, and it's a big commitment to join the fire department. Seeing this weekend, that kind of stretched to the limits a little bit with 2 in the same day, 2 fire calls on each end of the township there. So I would make a motion to accept the recommendations from Manager Gerard and Chief Sims to hire these 3 people. Do you need names in there, Randy, or?
I don't think so. Is there a
No.
Support it.
motion and support? Clerk Rattari had something?
Yeah, I'll put the names in the minutes, but I would just add that pending they pass their physical would be
Correct.
the
Oh, okay,
motion.
that's normal, okay.
Can we add it effective immediately? So it's done immediately?
Yeah, they would be noticed tomorrow morning, particularly the one that has to enter into the training program. That's not something new. We've routinely done that. We are a training department.
Pending the pass the physical is okay with you as a supporter of the motion? Okay. There's no other questions. You have a motion and support before you to approve Manager Gerard's recommendation on hiring 3 individuals for the current firefighter openings effective immediately. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. The next item on your agenda, 9D, consider Board of Review and other committee appointments. It's that time of year again, folks, where, I start whining and begging people to get involved with their community. We've got many great opportunities available. Nicest thing is that we have a very active volunteer base, but there's always room for more. We did have some openings on our events committee, and we have 1 candidate who is asked to be appointed to the event committee, and that is Trustee LaRue. Thank you, Pete, for stepping up. Pete's been involved with the event committee before. I keep telling folks at the event committee, if you want to join a committee, that's the one. They have the most fun. They're the ones who put on the parties. They're the ones who put on the gatherings, the get-togethers. What a cool committee. You don't have to tell anybody that that you don't agree with their appeal to the Board of Review, or you don't have to zoning board of appeals or anything like that. It's about throwing a party. Everybody likes to throw a party. So again, I'll throw that out there, that the event committee is always looking for volunteers, and we would love to have anybody that is familiar with the township or has an idea for something that they would like to do, and we would love to see them step up. First, for your consideration, the Board of Review. these get appointed in odd years, and it's a 2-year term. Currently, we had one member who has moved out of the area. That was Tanya Anglin, and that position is available. We do have John DeMay, Dave Wiegand, E.J. Kostreva, who are all have agreed, and I believe Linda Winslow also, Clerk Terry, right, has agreed to continue as the alternate. But that does leave us with one other alternate's position. They have all agreed to be reappointed for the 2-year term effective for January. So I think that the first thing I would do from a committee appointment is ask the board to consider renewing the Board of Review positions for the 4 aforementioned volunteers.
So moved.
Support.
Motion and support. Is there any other comment? Seeing none, all those in favor of moving them forward to another 2-year term on the Board of Review, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes, and I would just say that anyone interested in Board of Review, it means we do have a one alternate position open and available. We like having 2 alternates on the Board of Review so that if for some reason a regular member can't be there, we can still have a fully seated board, and I would encourage anyone interested to apply. The next item is the Event Committee. We do have one candidate for the Event Committee, and that is Pete LaRue, who is asked to continue on the Event Committee, and I would hope that the board would support that with a nomination for Pete to the Event Committee for a 2-year term, as well as Todd Nordyke is going to continue, and I know Julie is not, but is Leanne going to continue as?
Leanne is not going to be able to. Julie will be seasonally back. She's in Florida for the winter months, but will be back for the summer activities. So she'll be a volunteer, just to come on volunteer like we've had in addition to the regular appointees.
Okay, so right now we have Todd and Pete as our only candidates for the Event Committee.
Correct.
So I would ask the board to consider those as well. Secretary?
I'll move we accept Pete, Trustee LaRue, and Todd Nordyke to the Event Committee, and I think that's just a 1-year term,
It's a 2-year term.
2-year term, for 2-year term.
Support.
We have motion and support. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? That motion passes. Thank you, Pete. The Property Maintenance Appeals Board, I don't know where we're at, if that, it was always Pete and, or Jane Kennedy has served on it forever. It's a board that doesn't have to meet unless we get a property maintenance appeal, which we haven't had one in my memory. But we still have to have the board there just in case.
Correct. There's not been one in the 12 years I've been here. So, it does not meet regularly. We've not had any property code appeals. One of the things that the boards have considered in the past is not appointing, but having, if an appeal comes up, then to draw on members, basically to appoint a member at that point. But typically there is a committee appointment.
It seems like a great committee to serve on.
Yeah, they're doing a great job.
They're striking the fear into everybody's heart. Nobody appeals.
If they haven't met in 12 years, I would think that we could safely eliminate it.
Yeah, and if the need comes up, you can always appoint a
You can't
special
really
appointment.
eliminate the board, we'll fill it
Not
as
fill
needed.
it, correct.
So if somebody wanted to make that motion, that'd be great.
Sounds like Ernie did.
I did.
I'll support.
Motion and support to leave those terms open indefinitely or only as needed. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes. Thank you very much. The Marquette Senior Citizens Transition Board. Again, another board that hasn't been active, it was vacant. I don't think that there's been any action whatsoever. I know that they used to meet periodically, and I just don't know that there's been any call for it again.
This was a committee that was established jointly with the city of Marquette when they were looking at revising potentially how they were offering senior services to the residents of the area in conjunction with the County Commission on Aging. So it has not met. About a year ago, the last discussion that took place was serious consideration about disbanding it, and there has been no discussion since. So I would suggest you do the same with this as you just did with the Property Code of Appeals. If they reactivate, then I would appoint as needed.
Somebody would make that motion.
I'll make the motion.
Support.
Motion, a lot of support. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. Clerk Rattari?
Yeah, I have to apologize. I didn't realize that on the Zoning Board of Appeals that our chair's term was expiring also. So I know this is I think this is a supervisor's appointment, but I would recommend that we would reappoint Mr. Marks for another 3-year term.
Yeah, it's a supervisor's appointment, and I would make that recommendation as long as Mr. Marks is willing to serve. And I saw the letter to the clerk earlier, so I'm assuming that was a yes. And so I would make that recommendation that we reappoint Mr. John Marks to the Zoning Board of Appeals for another 3-year term. His term to expire 12/17.
I'll support that recommendation.
So actually, the supervisor could make that motion, and Treasurer Johnson supported it.
Any board member comment? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Thank you for your willingness to serve, Mr. Marks. I also would like to, as Trustee Durant had mentioned in her board member comments, the Peter White Public Library Township Advisory Board. Lynn had served as a representative, and she now has, after the board's determination, found that her time was better spent attending the actual board meetings of the library versus the Township Advisory Committee representative. So we didn't have a representative calling on there, and we do have, which I don't remember where I put that email.
Mary Davis.
Mary Davis is interested in filling that position, and therefore I would recommend that we do support Mary Davis's desire to serve on the Township Advisory Committee and
I'll make
appoint
that
her to
motion.
that 4-year term. Or the remainder, it will be the remainder, it was supposed to expire in 12/16, so it's the remainder of the 4-year term vacated by Trustee Durant.
So move that
Second.
Mary Davis replaces Trustee Durant on that.
Yeah, you probably just make that, you can make that motion in a minute, Ernie. And we have a motion and support to move Mary Davis to the Peter White Public Library Township Advisory Committee. If there's no other discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? That motion passes. Thank you, Mary. Ernie wants to make a motion.
There's one more that has not, the Recreational Committee, it's a 3-year term. There's one individual that's up on 12/14 with Paula who?
Oh, Paula Limata. I have it on good authority that she would love to serve and be re-upped, I'm sure.
Takes an appointment by the supervisor to do it.
Therefore,
Conflict.
I would move that forward for the board's consideration.
I'll support that.
Life sentence. He's already got one of those. If there's no other discussion, all those in favor of rewarding Paula Limata with another appointment to the Rec Committee signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes. Thank you, Paula, for your willingness to serve.
Dennis, how
Lynn?
about, I'm on here, still on the Heritage Trail.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's already been approved, so that's just got to be updated here. We don't have to do anything other than update that to Glenn. You see that?
Yep, I see
Randy,
that.
on the sheet, Iron Heritage Trail, and just put in Glenn
I do, we'll
with two
modify
N's,
that.
Johnson.
And also, if you could give me a copy of the Mary Davis letter, so we have that for contact as well.
I printed it, it's probably still sitting on the
Okay.
printer, because I don't see it in my stuff.
Right.
But yeah, I'll get that to you. And I think that's it for the appointments, at least for this evening. There may be more to come. I really hope that there are more for the event committee. We'd really like to see it. You know that they're doing the Lions Field Community Days in August, the car show at Applebee's, the Christmas tree lighting. There's other opportunities, and if you have a great idea for a good event to do in Marquette Township, just because you have an interest, and I don't care if it's a quilting bee or a motorcycle rally, step forward and come onto the event committee, and they'll hear you out and see if there's support, and they'll try to put it together. So anything that interests you, come on forward, jump on the event committee, and make this even a better place to live, work, play, and recreate. If there's nothing else, we'll move to the next item on our agenda is 9E, consider the Recreation Authority Ad Hoc Group Presentation Request. As you know, this request was made by Mike Springer and Planner McCarthy. They were our representatives to the Recreation Authority that met with Chocolate Township and City of Marquette and explored ways to move forward with the Rec Authority. Unfortunately, after they had put their recommendations together and worked on it for a couple of years, the report came, and the City of Marquette kind of stopped it or poo-pooed the idea from moving forward. They have an interest in perhaps pursuing another angle of finding ways to have some intergovernmental cooperation, and they'd asked to be on the agenda. And with that, gentlemen.
Thank you. We also have Don Britton from Chocolate Township, who was on the ad hoc committee, and this whole discussion, or the resurgence of this discussion, brings to mind something that happened last week. The Leadership Academy, group of young professionals from Lake Superior Community Partnerships Leadership Academy group, came in, and Randy, Dennis, and I had a conversation with them, answered some questions. Last weekend afterwards, I was approached by two different people who came up to me and in a complimented the township on how we do business out here and how much different it is than the other communities that they visited along that their day of visiting other communities. The passion that was here and the transparency in which we do things was highly valued by that group, and they actually talked about it on the bus afterwards. So I thought that was a nice segue to move into this. So, as Dennis mentioned, the city of Marquette opted not to recognize the value of this document that we received as a result of the study and the 1.5 year long process that we went through to get to that document. And so, in doing so, we felt, maybe we should have another conversation with other communities that may want to be a part of it. So, from this, we gleaned for your education, if you already went through it, maybe you didn't, maybe you have, some of the top points from that study. First of all, the Land Information Access Association and Harry Burkholder and Matt Cowell were the two consultants that were hired by the city of Marquette as the fiduciary of that grant that they received to conduct the study. These gentlemen are smart guys, and they deal with this situation all over the state of Michigan. Secondly, this is actually an updated website that they have, and a page from that website. And I thought there was one paragraph in here that made a lot of sense. Excuse me. One of the goals is to provide parks and adequate levels of service, but that local governments must invest both infrastructure and personnel. However, local governments throughout Michigan are encountering unprecedented financial constraints, squeeze between failing revenue and increasing costs. Local governments are looking at ways to consolidate services and share parks and recreation programs. So we're not alone. The city of Marquette's not alone in that endeavor, and I thought that it was interesting that they highlighted that on their project recognition of the project that they worked on with us. What we did basically was data mine the 3 recreation plans from Chocolate, from our township, and from the city of Marquette. And in cross-referencing all the information, community surveys, goals and objectives of those plans, there was a number of recommendations done, but there was 10 conclusions that were also recommended or documented by the consultants, and I'll briefly go through those. One is that there appear to be adequate opportunities to participate in recreational programs and enough facilities to support individual and team recreation activities in the Marquette community. 2, user fees do not offset the costs to the city for providing for and facilitating recreation programs and maintaining park facilities. Some of these will be more pertinent than others for our purpose. 3, recreational program providers appear willing to contribute to the upkeep and maintenance of recreational facilities. Number 4, there's a broadly shared view that parks, trails, and recreation programs / events contribute to the identity and quality of life in the greater Marquette community. And there is a broadly shared view that parks, trails, and recreation programs / events greatly contribute to the community's economy. 5, without an independent governing body and funding source, consolidation of parks and recreation facilities may yield some improvements in providing for maintenance, but will not yield significant operational efficiencies or cost savings. Number 6, good cooperative potential exists between the city of Marquette, the Charter Township of Marquette, although the full extent and potential of cooperation remains unclear. And that one's kind of not so much a sticking point, but an opportunity to move in a different direction if need be. Number 7, there is a broadly shared view that large portions of the Heartwood Forest property should be preserved in perpetuity. That one was pretty common, obviously, between the 3 of us. 8, formal cooperation centered on the Heartwood Forest property presents challenges that must be addressed by the 3 jurisdictions. And that can involve anything from planning to who owns it to what it's zoned as. Many, many pieces of the puzzle there. Number 9, there is already a strong and well-supported recreational collaboration in the community that has both independent funding and governance. And finally, number 10, trails and trail connectivity have consistently been identified as important recreational priorities in all 3 jurisdictions. So from those observations, it was recommended that basically 4 things happen. One is to focus on trails as a common starting point for collaboration should we move forward. Number 2, work together to develop a specific plan with a common focus. Number 3 is to leverage current strengths. And number 4 was to investigate conservation easement for recreation portions of the Heartwood Forest property. I'm taking the Heartwood Forest property out of the picture. Trails are something that's common between the 3 municipalities, but I would bet that if we discuss trails with Sands Township, who is along our southern border, both motorized and non-motorized, I have a feeling that they may be willing to come back to the table. So what does that mean for Marquette Township? The short-term actions items for the township board and other municipalities that may be willing to participate would be to determine the administrative framework of a committee, the composition and representation of that board, adopt a resolution creating an intermunicipal committee that gives us the ability to go out and get grants to come up with a more formalized business plan or sharpened approach to collaboration, appoint representatives to the committee, and establish and post a meeting schedule. To further discuss the importance to Marquette Township, Mr. Springer is going to speak about how this translates and works with our master plan and our community surveys in earnest. And he'll be here in just a second. So once and if the committee is established, the next term action items would be to meet regularly and develop a clear and specific plan for a formal recreation collaboration, including a preferred structure, specific projects, specific costs and timelines and sources of funding, work on a mutually beneficial resolution to the issues surrounding the Heartwood Forest property. That doesn't have to be necessarily in there. It could be just about trails. And investigate additional opportunities for recreation collaboration around mutually beneficial assets. So Mike will come up and talk about the master plan, recreation plan, and how all those things coordinate.
So what Jason just talked about was what the report says. We have, there's a total of $17,000 invested in this report. Our township and Chocolate Township invested $1,000 each, and the city invested $15,000 towards this report. As with any report, we want to take action on it. We don't want to just put it on a shelf and leave it there. And this is why we as a township need to move forward with this. First of all, if we look at our master plan, there are 4 pages in the master plan that talk about non-motorized transportation. And in there, we look at non-motorized transportation. We talk about infrastructure for pedestrians, identify that as a plan, improvement. We also talk about bicycle infrastructure and multi-use paths. Most importantly, Marquette Township was the first township in the Upper Peninsula to adopt a complete streets ordinance. And we note that in our master plan. What it does is it helps encourage active healthy lifestyles. It allows for people with different types of mobility. It really is about having access for people of all ages and abilities. It also improves safety and reduces the risk of pedestrian or bicycle accidents with motorized vehicles. And it helps promote a cleaner environment because we're using less fossil fuels to move around our township. We look at our community survey, and of course this is what our master plan is based on, but there's just 2 items I want to point out to you, is that a majority of people have said that they are supportive of Marquette Township being involved in acquiring some property for recreational use in perpetuity in the Heartwood Forest. And one other item, that the response show that residents are very supportive of developing more biking and walking trails. That was the highest one at 62. But now I want to, as chairman of the rec committee, I need to bring you to what our recreation committee report says. And we need, as a rec committee, to try to follow this. First of all, we want to continue to develop a regional network of connected bicycle routes and trails and walkways. We do have some of that, especially with the R&R Heritage Trail. We want to develop a network by collaborating with other municipalities, trail networks and recreation program providers. We want to acquire additional land for scenic assets, view sheds, parks, trails, and recreation use. Purchase of the Heartwood property, we want to do that. That's an objective to set aside in perpetuity, as I mentioned, for recreational use. And when supported by this township board, and that's what we hope we're going to get tonight, is to collaborate with other municipalities, trail networks, nonprofit organizations, other recreation program providers for the purpose of expanding recreation opportunities in the region. Finally, with our 4th goal, the rec plan, again, develop a regional network of municipalities, trail networks, recreation authorities, recreational program providers, and other stakeholders to improve recreational offerings in the community. That means that we need to participate in regional recreation planning and encourage cooperation and collaboration with the surrounding municipalities. So on behalf of the Rec Committee, we would like the board to support moving forward with the recommendations in this plan. We would like to establish we would like to first of all reach out to the other municipalities. And as Jason mentioned, Sands may revisit it once we incorporate some motorized trails that are part of the plan. And hopefully Chocolate Township, I know they have a lot invested time-wise in that, and we have worked real well with Chocolate in the past. So we would like to move forward with what the study shows. We need board support for that. So if there's any questions, or Jason and I can.
Questions for
One
either
of the
Mike
two
or
of us.
Jason? Lynn, go ahead.
When you say, Mike, to go forward with this, you're looking at this last page of the recommendations, the short term, just as it is? This is what you want to do?
You're talking about the very last page, the last one that talks about recreation authority. If you read the report, it says that the recreation authority would not be appropriate at this time. And one of the things that we talked about, because Don, as you know, Don's on the board for the Iron Heritage Recreation Authority, we do not want to do anything that jeopardizes their mission. If anything, they would be one of the collaborating agencies that work with us as we try to work with other municipalities. So we would see the role of this as enhancing what the Iron Heritage Trails recreation.
But you're not really saying how you're setting this up. Are you looking at a three-way or possibly four-way partnership where, we each have a 33rd, excuse me.
Yeah, first of all, what we'd have to do is find out who's interested in it. They need to read the report and see if they want to establish that. And what we would do is actually
Mike,
establish-
will you grab the mic? Thank you.
A multi-jurisdictional, just a committee. It would have no powers other than the fact that it would be a committee that was the municipalities coming together and talking about what needs are and seeing what we can do that we can collaborate on and move forward with. So it would not have any power other than, coming back to our board, myself, hopefully that you would see fit to appoint me to this, but I would like to be part of that. I would, come back to the board and present what transpired at the committee meetings and take it from there. But I think we need to move forward on this. We don't want to put this plan on a shelf and say, well, that was a nice plan.
So you're looking, from us, you're looking for,
We need
Yeah,
a way
what
to
are
move
you?
forward, and I don't know if I have. I was hoping that we could designate the Recreation Committee. And we had discussion tonight at the Recreation Committee about this, and then they went through the presentation. Jason and I went through the presentation with them, and they supported it, and they would like to be involved in this. So somehow through the Rec Committee to contact other municipalities and get a sense of where they're at with this.
So I've got a sense that, I struggle with it because you're right. In one of the things when we were putting this group together, I said, I have very real concerns that it doesn't go anywhere, that we ask people to volunteer and put their time together and spend a lot of time working on this. I think you guys did a great job overall as a committee. But in the end, it's not what the city wanted to see when they got the final product, and so they walk away, and that's the end of it. I mean, we were going to have a meeting at the forum room in the Lakeview, and all the municipalities were going to come together and look at this presentation. We couldn't even get that far, because once the city saw the report, that was the end. They walked away. I'm not, I get the sense that you're trying to attack it from another direction with leaving the Heartwood Forest Land property off, but just focused on talking about mutually beneficial trail networks. Not anything about a rec authority that owns property or does anything else as a way to move it forward. Is my sense correct?
Yeah, the initial board vision, if I may, your direction to either be Mike or whoever else serves on that, if you move forward, that vision wouldn't change. We wouldn't be looking at facilities or things like that, or brick and mortar stuff. We're trying to focus on what the recommendations were for the two municipalities that agreed on those, and to move forward with perhaps Sands Township, or the city does have new commissioners. Maybe they would shed a different light on it, and maybe they'd have a different opinion of it moving forward, and we would be certainly willing to reach out to them to see if they are.
Lynn?
Dennis, does, I don't see using this last page as direction, because it talks about Heartwood, if you're looking at trails, talks about Heartwood and the possible asset of having a rec authority. So what I'm wondering is, can we, because I know committees' responsibilities and authority are somewhat limited, but they work under our auspices. So can we, as a board, recommend to the Recreation Committee that they study the feasibility with 3 other communities of putting this together, and not making it as wide scope as this, with this being all-inclusive? Because it does cover those 2 other things that we are kind of saying might be off the table. It's just trails.
Yeah, I mean, we can do whatever the board's pleasure is here. I mean, right now, this whole thing is dead in the water. It's, it's been dead since the city walked away, and we never even had the initial presentation of it. Each municipality looked at it on their own, and while we were excited to say, okay, let's move forward and see what happens, it died right there. I guess from our standpoint, we've got to provide the direction of where we want them to go. I don't see it moving forward without the city's participation anyway. So unless you think that we form some type of ad hoc committee that just works with the surrounding townships and develops,
We just got done with an ad hoc committee. We think that we need a formal committee, but it's going to be totally controlled by the boards of the municipalities. Nothing's going to be done by this committee or agreed to without board input and approval. And I understand, maybe there's some recommendations. We didn't even go through the 24 findings that are in there. There may be some findings that you find that you don't agree with. But I think the common focus, as Supervisor Limata has mentioned, is trails. And I think that's something everybody can get behind. And without the opportunity to contact the other municipalities and find out where they're at, it's dead in the water. We're not going to do anything with it. And whether the city decides to be part of this or not, no one can say, but I would think, and Mr. Britton may have a few words on that, but I would think Chocolate is possibly interested in moving forward, and we'd like to try Sands again. And if it just turns out that it's the 3 townships together that are moving forward with recreation planning, I think the city will get on board.
Dan?
So my assumption is that you're just looking for us to give you
We would
approval
like your
to be,
permission.
to move forward as a part of a regional recreational authority or recreation commission, not commission, committee, I'm sorry.
It's a formal, multi-jurisdictional, that's what this is. It's about, we did a feasibility study. We started out because we were charged to find out whether an authority would be the way to go. And if you read the document, it basically says, we have an authority in the area that's very highly successful and doing well. And we don't need another authority here, because it gets confusing. All of a sudden, people on a millage, which rec authority should be voting for? We don't want that. We don't want to take anything away from what's going on with Iron Ore Heritage Rec Authority. we want to complement that. But we also want to work with local community, Marquette community municipalities to accomplish that. So, and the only way we're going to be able to do that is if we approach other municipalities.
So a regional recreation committee?
And Manager Gerard may have a better terminology. Basically, what we're asking for is that we have this document. We would like to reach out to the surrounding municipalities, not only them, but the trail networks, people that are involved in trails, and see if they want to be a part of helping to further plan for trails. And perhaps it would be part of a committee, but that would come back to you before that. Tonight, I think we're essentially asking you to allow us to communicate with the other municipalities on behalf of the township board to see if they're interested in participating.
Manager Gerard.
I guess what I'm hearing from the presentation is what they're looking for is the approval from the board to explore an interlocal agreement working towards joint trail development and access.
Sounds good to us.
That sounds reasonable. I would make a motion to direct the rec committee to whatever you call
second
that.
that.
Inter whatever.
Intergovernmental.
Interlocal
Local.
agreement.
We have a motion and a second. Other comment? Pete?
It's basically going back 2-3 years, what we started with, to go back and see what we have in common, trails, soccer field, baseball field, try to put it all together before it got blown into authority. So I think this is the right way to start again. See what we have in common, Chalkley, Sands, and Marquette Township. Trails is very important, and that could go with the snow machines, biking and stuff like that. Something that's workable, and then go on from there. I think it's very important that we follow through what they're suggesting.
Randy, something to add?
Where an interlocal agreement comes into play is, unlike an authority, the interlocal agreement has no independent authority to act or to enter any commitments without all of the municipalities agreeing, basically. And it gives the opportunity to expand your capability to attract grant funds by being multi-jurisdictional, but not giving up ownership of anything.
Okay.
If I may, yeah, this is more of a grassroots approach rather than trying to lock ourselves into some kind of legislation. As I've stated since I've started, private and public partnerships are a huge way to get things done in the township, and we've proven that over and over. And my initial compliment about how we do things in the township, perhaps a little bit differently, is to, again, take the high road, take our document, and go knocking on doors and see if we can make it work on a different level other than a regional recreational authority. And we think we can do that.
Randy Gerard just mentioned about funding, and that's one of the things we were awarded one of the 3 grants that we applied for, Jason and the Rec Committee. And one of the things that these state grants are looking for is cooperation. And some of the ones that are getting big dollar funds are the ones that are multi-jurisdictional, multi-municipality. So just even though this committee we would form would not be able to apply for it because it's only a municipality or a rec authority that could apply for those grants. If Chocolate was applying for a grant and we were applying for a grant, we showed cooperation and how these two things dovetail each other, we stand a much better chance of being funded.
Okay. We have motion and second on the floor to authorize the Recreation Committee to move forward in an exploratory basis with nearby municipalities on approaching an interlocal agreement in recreational assets. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes.
That was the scenic route around that subject.
The next item on your agenda is 9F, consider the community room rental fee. As you know, we've been in the building for, goodbye Fink Biners. We've been in this building for about a little over a year now, And when we put the community room together, we had no idea what type of usage we were going to see. And it's been interesting because we did have that provision where if it was a service group or another municipality or municipal or government entity, that we would make it available to them with no user fee. But we also said as we put this together that one of the things that we were concerned is that it was going to be revenue neutral. We found out that we have a very popular spot here with municipal and governmental entities who like to reserve it. But unfortunately, because we put it at no user fee, maybe that's part of the popularity, but it's also a great space. But because we talked about this being revenue neutral, or at least, you know, I mean, we didn't want to lose money on it either, it does require some setup and cleaning and things like that from our building and ground staff. So we certainly, now that we've got a year under our belt and we've seen it, Manager Gerard has definitely had some concerns and has talked about, you know, re-looking at the amount that we charge those groups rather than making it available at no fee, that we at least put something in place that would at least recoup our costs and so that the use of the facility, because the carpet wears out, you know, tables, chairs wear out, those types of things, we still should have some type of revenue come in from that. And Manager Gerard, your recommendations?
Well, it just dovetailing on the comment Supervisor Lehman made, you know, when we set this up, we set it up on a 4-hour block, basically. We established a user block, basically, and it was $100 for a 4-hour block, equating to about $25 an hour. And, you know, and basically, when you look a little bit further down on the agenda under item K with the budget amendment, you'll see what's happened with what our projected revenue was and what our actual revenue is, because, as Supervisor mentioned, it's become very popular with state and federal agencies. We've had corrections in here for weeks at a time for training. We've had DNR in here weeks at a time for training, and those are free. But every day there's setup and there's takedown, there's wear on the equipment, there's wear on a variety of things, and we're generating no revenue out of that. So it's not revenue neutral. We're actually funding other people's training sites, basically. So to simplify this somewhat, I'd like to just go back to that hourly figure rather than having user blocks. There was always a consideration from the board that you wanted to have the taxpayers in the township have some kind of an improved benefit, let me put it that way. So what I would suggest, and just by way of suggestion to start discussion, I'd like to have the board think about it. And I'm not talking about revamping the entire agreement or anything like that, but the way we charge. And if we went to a flat fee of $25 an hour for all residents that are taxpayers, whether they're residents or businesses that are taxpayers in the community, at $25 an hour and $35 an hour for all others, we should be pretty well covered. So that's just the kind of a suggestion that I'm making, is to simplify it and to have there be a charge, basically covering our expenses. Not making money necessarily on it, but covering our expenses.
Before you said, you know, that one of the things that a service group that benefits the township, and we gave, you know, would we still waive?
If there was a direct benefit to the township that we, you know, that we ascribe a value to,
Like
then
the Lions
yes,
Club,
we would
for
have,
example, is kinda what I'm
we would
getting at.
preserve or reserve that ability to do that. But what I'm concerned about are the things like the State Department of Corrections coming in for a week, you know, 8 hours a day for a week, you know, and there's no revenue at all coming back to the township to offset the costs of that. And that's what we've experienced over the last year.
Okay. So what you're asking the board for then is a change to our rental policy to make it a flat $25 per hour.
For tax-paying entities within the township, whether it be residents or businesses, and for others that are not, $35 an hour.
Okay. Lynn?
I guess I'm surprised. I wouldn't have thought we'd give away the bride, you know. I never have intended that somebody would take it 8 hours a day. I mean, we kind of focused here when we put this together on weddings and showers and stuff.
Right.
And the opposite side of that was going to be you know, the women's club or a
Correct.
church group wanted to play cards,
Right.
you know, and we were just gonna let them play for an hour, and it was gonna be no big deal.
And that's still the case, but these are where they're reserving the entire facility,
But
basically.
if you're reserving it for classes and stuff, that isn't really any different than having a wedding, just because there's no liquor involved.
Mhm.
I would think that we should definitely charge somebody who books it for a regular amount of time to accomplish something, which is kind of contrary to playing cards or, you know, having a church luncheon or something so they can have a little meeting or, yeah, I think we gave away the house here.
Ernie?
I think, I talked a little bit with our clerk on that, on this when we were first discussing it, and being in a nonprofit area as a university and that, and working with some of these organizations that, when they come in, they find something for free, they're gonna use it. They have money in their budget, there's no question about that. They're just saving it for some other use in that. So, if we put a fee on it, they're probably still gonna use it or gonna go someplace else, but there isn't too many places that like we have, so, they're probably still gonna come back in that too.
We will still be, even at that, the most attractive, cost-based location. And basically what it's done for us over the years, it's given us great exposure. Lots of people have seen it, and there's a lot of interest in it. And, you know, and I think we need to rethink the application of free use.
Pete?
The problem, we got exposure now, but next time you go down to the bank to make a payment, just say, well, we don't have no money, but we got a little exposure here. But it is, when you have a function at another facility, either they have a restaurant there, so they recoup some of it by having you there, they recoup the thing, we don't. So I think we have to look at it and just say we have to charge for this. And it's pretty popular. But do we need a person here all the time? Or are we figuring that one in?
No,
No,
basically,
during
these,
the day, it's,
yeah, during-
we're already open and we're here.
during
so
the
it's
day.
not-
We only add the additional staff when it's outside of normal work hours. You know, if it's during, even on a weekend, if I'm in here or whatever, you know, it's basically to ensure that there's somebody here that if something happens, something unusual or, you know, power outage or whatever, you know, we provide that. But what, Ernie's absolutely right. They will still come, and it's not that we're looking to make money on it. It's basically we're just trying to
Cost.
preserve, and we're going to have to do maintenance. I mean, we have to have the carpet cleaned. We have to do a variety of things like that costs. That's all I'm looking to do is to recover those costs. Now we still have, as a for instance, you know, we were utilized this year by North Star Academy for their end of the year events that they have with the kids, you know, that one day. That's still available to them. I mean, they're not a they're a tax exempt entity, but there's certainly a benefit to the township of having that school here, you know, and having those folks in. And many of the students are township residents. So, I mean, that is still something that we would make available in that kind of a scenario. But when you have corrections and DNR and Fish and Wildlife, you know, coming in to use it, they should be picking up some of the cost.
Ernie?
So looking at the fees, you're talking like item number 6, 5 and 6 are the two that we're going to
Yes.
alternate?
Correct. And basically, we would eliminate those and convert, instead of having $100 and $100 for a use block of 4 hours and $150, we'd just go to a flat $25 an hour for tax-paying residents and businesses in the township, $35 for the others. Which tracks. I mean, it tracks the same dollar amounts in essence that we've talked about originally.
I would suggest putting together a whole new fee schedule for our next meeting, so
Sure.
we know exactly what we're voting on and that, so
Yeah.
we can make it available, because it's still early enough in the year before we do anything about it. So if we act at the next meeting, and this is effective immediately, we can go forward.
And the reason we wanted to bring it tonight is for board members to think about it, because this is going to be one of those things that like 20 minutes after you leave the meeting tonight, you'll think, oh, geez, what about this? And I'd get that feedback. I'd like to get that feedback from you so we can put something together that would encapsulate what all the board members' thoughts are at the next meeting.
Secretary?
I'll move that we move this item with the updated fee schedule to the next meeting for action
Support.
under old business.
We have motion and support. Any other comments? Randy, I just have one, perhaps reaching out to a few of the entities who have rented from us and asking them to respond back about your proposed fee structure, just to deliver that feedback back to us with the recommendation.
Sure, I don't think there's going to be any issue because they were amazed.
Okay. You would just include that with
Sure.
your recommendation. Appreciate it. We have a motion on the table to move to the next agenda for the community center rental fee recommendations from Manager Gerard. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. Now to 9G Township meeting dates. Clerk Wachari did have a sheet out for everyone that included the meeting dates for all committees and the Township Board. For adoption, has anyone seen any issues with it? Pete?
I think we already made about a couple of adjustments already, so I would make a motion, we approve the schedule, 2015 meeting schedule.
Motion support. Board member comment? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the 2015 Township meeting dates as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. That was easy. Next item on our agenda is to discuss the Lions Field rink update. To entertain you on this item is chief cook and bottle washer, carpenter, contractor, planning commissioner, rec committee member. Have I left anything out? Dave Wiegand.
Retired.
And retiree. We are so glad you retired in this community, Dave.
The warming house is coming along fairly well. We missed Monday due to too warm, and there was about 4 to 6 inches of mud and slop on the ground that we just refused to tromp through. And then today with the storm, but we should be back at it tomorrow. We have the exterior walls up on the warming house, and we're planning on having the trusses up and ready for shingles by the end of the weekend. So the only thing we have left to do is coordinate with a crane to put the trusses up, but it's moving along pretty good. I mean, it takes a little bit of time because of the weather considerations, but
Manager Gerard?
Just one comment. We are encouraging people to go over and take a look at it, but I would caution them to be prepared for mud because until the ground freezes again, it is slimy. I'll put it that way. And Dave's right. There's about 4 to 6 inches of mud. It's from the the moisture and the frost and everything coming out of the ground, and it's just the equipment being moved around, construction process going on. The ground is disturbed. It's very wet, and it is very muddy. So just be prepared for that.
I did see some pictures earlier this week. Pete and Dave, Mike Springer, and our building and grounds crew. I have not been inside of the building since the walls went up. I just haven't had the opportunity to get over there and take a look at it, but I was impressed with how you move forward with this, Dave. The board gave you the direction and approval to spend up to $67,000 to complete the shack, and since the initial block work was coming in at $40-some thousand, I'm impressed that you were able to do what you did and talk with the contractors. I want to make sure the board knows it as well as residents that the only way that we move this thing forward, first off, thank you for the grant from Cliffs Lundin Mining, because that $100,000 grant made this possible. Number two, without Dave Wiegand acting as our general contractor, and the board, thank the board for giving him and Randy the authority to move forward. You're seeing what happens when you can negotiate a little one-on-one with contractors and move it forward. And Dave, I just want to, again, on behalf of the board, really give you our appreciation for what you've done, because it wouldn't be possible if you weren't standing there.
thank you. And there's a number of contractors that stepped forward and gave us a break on the price to keep us below our budget. And in addition to that, some of the utilities, the Board of Light and Power, and Semco. They went way out of their way to make sure that we had what we needed to get this thing going, including the lights on the rink. Yeah. We got a pretty good deal from the Board of Light and Power on the lights on the rink, in as much as they are actually going to be wired into the warming house. They really were under no obligation to do any more than put the poles in for us. And they did us a huge favor by stringing the wires, putting the lights up, and the wires just laying there waiting for us to hook it up as soon as we get the electrical rough in. And Semco stepped up, and they should have been gone 2 weeks before we needed it, but they stuck around and put the service line. We have that up at the building already. So a lot of people stepped up and helped us out.
It's amazing, and those are those public-private partnerships that, you know, come together and working towards a greater good. It's just a feel-good thing, because when we're finished here, you know, the idea is that we're going to see a bunch of people out there on skates, and, you know, instead of kids being sitting home in the basement with a video game controller in their hand, I'd much rather see them out on the ice.
And it's gonna move a little slower once we do get it closed in. We do have to get some heat in there and thaw the ground out inside. The only thing that can really take place is they can do the wiring rough in, which will get the lights on the rink going, and the plumbing rough in the underground portion. Then we're going to have to get the cement poured. And in order for that to happen, we're going to have to get some heat in there and get the ground thawed out. But the fact that Semco brought gas up to the building will help out immensely with that cost.
Well,
Yeah, Semco also stepped up a little more today. We got a notice that their district manager reviewed the project and is going to give us $1,200 back.
oh, no kidding.
Yep.
Wow, that's awesome. Ernie?
I think keeping track of everyone that has helped us with this, and then at the end of it, invite them and also send a letter on behalf of the
Formal recognition.
recognition that too, so.
I would think that most of those should be listed on a plaque someplace inside the building. Everybody that took part in that, because we're not dealing with a contractor that has not cut their prices way back to help us out.
Awesome.
I keep track of all those, so we have that at the end.
That's great. Other comments or questions for Dave? Thanks again, Dave. The next item on your agenda is 9I, consider the fire hall retention payment and deed release. You do have in your packet a transmittal from Jim Clark that talks about the fire hall retention payment and deed release. Just to confirm that Chief Sims has confirmed and acknowledged his approval that the work was done and approved by Chief Sims, that the parking lot issue was taken care of, and the other one that was being held back for were the masonry repairs, which were less than adequate in our estimation, and it appears that all of those items have now been taken care of. Is that correct, Manager Gerard?
That is correct. This does go back to almost a year ago when the building was completed. There had been a spill of some hydraulic fluid on the brand new asphalt, and there were some issues with the grouting primarily on the block work. In essence, what happened is if you don't mix enough grout, it's very difficult to match the colors, and it was obvious in some places, so that needed to be corrected, and it took some time to do it. We in fact had to bring in a different contractor to complete it, so we withheld money from the original contractor to fund that. And where we're at now is we're at the point where the chief and the contractor, Bromley Hall, have both agreed that there's not any further issue, and they're authorizing release of the funds that we've been holding. And there would be two motions basically necessary to do this that are identified in the second paragraph. One is to release the final retention payment, and the other is to that gets it gets the deed released basically, and then to file the deed. So the second paragraph should be broken into two separate motions to accomplish that, and it's identified as one would be to release the final payment in the amount of $10,300. And the second would be to release the warranty deed from escrow.
Okay, thanks. Ernie?
I'll make the first motion to release the final payment in the amount of $10,300 for the final retention amount held out until the masonry repairs were completed.
Second.
Motion is second. Any other comment? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? That motion passes. Thank you.
Also, I'll make a motion that we release or grant the authorization to the escrow to release the deed.
Support.
Motion support. Any board member comment? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. Next item on your agenda is 9J. Consider the Township General Appropriations Act for fiscal year 2015. Secretary.
Okay, this is the final process in our adoption of our budget. I did check with the with our legal counsel. I do not have to read this whole thing, which is good.
Don't.
I do not. As long as it's referenced in the minutes and everyone had access to it, it is fine to make the motion and reference it, because it'll be in my minutes anyway. So I will make the motion to approve the Township General Appropriations Act for the Charter Township of Marquette for year 2015.
Second.
Support.
Motion and support. Are there any comments? Seeing none, I just have one, Randy, and I think you
Yes.
probably do that on the, and the Township Supervisor declared the motion carried and the resolution duly adopted on the, it says second day of December of 2015.
Okay,
You're
so
gonna
I will
second that.
change that, yeah.
So, motion is second for the resolution. Clerk Rattari?
Clerk Rattari is yes. Trustee Durant.
Yes.
Trustee Pompo.
Yes.
Trustee LaRue.
Yes.
Treasurer Johnson.
Yes.
Supervisor Limata.
Yes.
Motion carries 6 yes, no no's, and 1 absent.
Thank you. The next item on your agenda is to consider a budget amendment number 2014-13. Clerk Rattari?
Present to the board this budget amendment 2014-13. This is the end of the year adjustments, and and I'm not going to read this like I usually do because it is very lengthy again. But that is the year-end adjustments on our budget to make it balanced for the end of the year. And the accountant has moved, as you can see by the accounts, lots of things in different places to balance it. So I will make a motion to approve that budget amendment.
Support.
We have motion and support to approve budget amendment number 2014-13 as a final budget amendment of the year. Board member comment. Lynn?
Just something I want to point out, and I'm sure that Kirk is aware of it, obviously, but here comes the case where we are taking money from replacement and improvement for water and wastewater. And I realize that there's the adjustments and stuff that need to be made at the end of the year. I understand that part. But we've talked all year about not messing with his money, and here we go. I don't know. I saw that and I said, I don't like that. So that's just my comment.
Anyone else? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second to approve the budget amendment as presented. Clerk Rattari?
Clerk Rattari is yes. Trustee LaRue.
Yes.
Trustee Pompo.
Yes.
Trustee Durant.
Yes.
Treasurer Johnson.
Yes.
Supervisor Limata.
Yes.
Motion carries. And 1 absent.
Thank you. Next item on your agenda is consider the pay request number 4 for the Trowbridge Low Pressure Force Main Project. Number 2, you do have a transmittal that was included in your packet from Superintendent of Public Works, Kirk Page, that breaks it down. The pay request number 4 in the amount of $19,926.49 submitted by Overstar Inc. For the Trowbridge Park Low Pressure Force Main Project Phase 2. It has been reviewed and recommended for payment by North Country Engineering. Superintendent Page concurs with the recommendation and respectfully request payment to Overstar in the amount of $19,926.49. $21,505.61 will be retained pending completion of restoration and punch list items in the spring. As of today, 15 properties are connected, and $26,334.36 has been collected. $1,067.80 has been billed. The Fair Avenue re-engineered sanitary sewer replacement project is substantially complete. So we're looking for a motion to approve the final payment to Overstar in the amount of $19,926.49.
So moved.
Support.
Motion and support. Any questions? And Mr. Page is here.
I think the only question I have is really not a question, is that as we wrap up this project, that if Kurt can come and tell us how much we spent on it and how much we've collected, so we know where we're at overall. Because we're billing these properties for that total project. So we're trying to find out where we're at this point and what's going to happen going forward as to how much we're going to have to look for it in the future to pay off.
One thing that I didn't have the information,
Kirk, can you please step to the podium, please?
yes, in regards to the Coverage project, there's one additional piece of information that I didn't have until after. I do have the amount of money that we've collected so far, and the cost is on the total cost is on the spreadsheet from the contractor. Also, we have 5 properties that are going to connect in the spring. We just basically ran out of good weather, so, and those people are paying, will be paying. Plus, we anticipate even more people to start paying, even though they might not.
So,
And those numbers are basically, should be, I expect more to come in this month yet, because, as of January, the connection fee is going to go up.
so we had 15 that hooked up this year with the expansion of the
Right.
Sewer,
And
with
5
another
more that-
5 who you
They
anticipate
tried to
coming
hook up,
on.
but they just ran out of time.
Okay.
But they're, they didn't have feelings septic, so, they can wait.
But that's 20 residents that we were able to provide sewer for who were in dire need, and it just highlights the importance of this project moving forward. I think, some of the questions when it was initially proposed, you heard, well, how many, who's really doing it? Do we really need it? And you've got 20 residents who would answer that question, yes, we really needed it.
Right. And you may have seen in the news that the governor did sign off on that Section 19 grant application that we made, that a number of communities made. We've also been getting emails from aides that have been implying that they're still going to monitor our cost and potentially reimburse us even more. Right now, we have, including the Fair Avenue project, about $70,000 that we have not been reimbursed for. So that's not a promise, of course, but it's they're the ones that brought it up, not me. So
Right, so there's still an opportunity that may present itself yet to
maybe.
recoup some more, okay?
Yep, Senator Casperson's staff is working on that.
Just one question.
Go ahead.
On Fair Avenue, I see all the equipment is moved. Are they completed that until the spring now to do the
Yeah,
final?
basically it's just to clean up. So
Just to clean up.
actually, I believe it was last Thursday was the final hookup. I think it was like the last Friday that was available for paving. They had completed the new main construction, the connection to the existing manhole, and the reconnection of the Woodridge Avenue to the new main. And we got that intersection paved. Then the bad weather hit. Of course, all the deer hunters vacated the area. So there was a period of time, at least 2 weeks, where nothing happened.
And then after that, we were basically waiting on the drillers who also took even more time to come back to drill the two laterals for replacing. So that actually happened. The laterals got replaced last Wednesday, and Thursday was the final hookup. So again, that's substantially complete except for restoration. And we haven't been billed for that, so probably next month, either the first or second meeting, we'll be getting probably the one and only P request for that one.
Other questions?
Just a comment.
Go ahead.
This is something else we talked about all year long too, is, and I didn't say anything when we approved the agenda because Kirk wasn't here, he came in till later, but I think when we have staff that are going to be here, they need to be the first couple items on the agenda and not make them wait, not make us pay for them, and they don't have to screw up their night. Besides, they can go home. So we need to do that next year. Just keep talking about stuff sometimes.
We have a motion and a second on the floor to approve the pay request number 4 in the amount of $19,926.49.
So
All those in-
moved.
Already,
We
it's
already
It's already
already,
done. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, Superintendent Page. The next item on your agenda is consider the purchase of fire apparatus tires. You did see the transmittal that was in your packet. There was only one bid that came in. I'm not sure why, and perhaps Manager Gerard would like to shed some light on it, but at any rate, we need to replace some tires that are 20 years old and beginning to crack on the aerial fire apparatus in the amount of $2,818. And the recommendation is that we make a motion to approve that amount for Willie's Tire Shop.
I'll make that motion.
Motion and a second. Any comment? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes. Next item on your agenda is 9N. We're running out of alphabet. The manager's report, Manager Gerard.
First of all, I apologize. I just discovered that the attachment was not attached to 9N, and as I passed that out in your desks earlier, just before the meeting. Basically, that's just a recap of what the last meeting at the Corridor Committee was. With regard to the report, I don't really have comment to make, but I just wanted to identify a couple of things for residents that may be watching the YouTube. Your holiday waste collection, the solid waste garbage collection, will not be impacted by the holidays. It'll be regular time, regular day, no change. Office hours, we will be closed on Christmas Eve day and Christmas Day, and then on only New Year's Day. Otherwise, the offices will be open and staffed. On those 3 days, normal call-in procedure for after hours would apply. Call the office 228-6220. Follow the prompts to get the call out for the service worker if you need them. Christmas tree collection, 1 day only, Monday, January the 5th. Christmas trees will be picked up curbside outside your home. Natural trees only, no artificial trees. And they have to be out by 6 o'clock in the morning to be picked up.
Comment on that. Can we, and then, I don't know if it's too late for the water bill to go out to put a comment on that?
Oh, it is, yeah. It's going to be on the water bills, or it's going to be in the newspaper, but I just wanted to mention that tonight as well. So we'll blanket the e-blast on all of our email addresses, all of those things. I think it's even on the website and the Facebook page as well.
Questions for Manager Gerard?
Just on the bonding on that
Yes.
status.
We are we've engaged both the bond counsel as well as the finance counsel. We have worked with Stouter Barsh, the finance counsels have worked with us on our water projects and our wastewater projects. So we're familiar with them. They're familiar with us. You know, what's going on right now is the bond counsel, Mr. Collis with Miller Canfield, is researching the various statutes that we could do the bonding under, whether it's through the county board or through the county road commission. There are different requirements, different benefits and detriments to various, so they're doing a legal opinion on that at the same time that Mr. Stouter, Paul Stouter from Stouter Barsh, is working the bond process through, getting the interest rates, trying to determine what our best method of acquiring the bonds are. We're going to be having a follow-up conference call sometime yet this week. I'm just waiting for him to identify when he's got his information and he's available. They are still targeting issuance of the bonds in February, collection in March, to be ready for an early April start to the project. So it's in process. At the same time, the Roads Committee and the Road Commission are just beginning discussion about the behind-the-scenes stuff and design and engineering.
I'm just guessing there's no tax tribunal information update or anything. The library board is anxious to hear.
The only thing that we know so far is we've been advised that the staff of the Supreme Court are reviewing the case. The Supreme Court has been active recently. They're back in session, and they have taken up several cases that they'll be dealing with, statewide type issue cases. And there's one labor case that they'll be taking up as well so far. But nothing as yet on ours where that review is going. We know staff does have it, however.
The last thing is, I saw the company out here with the lights in the parking lot. Are they finally going to get them put up?
Yes, they were waiting for the poles to be delivered. They were delivered late last week, the actual poles, and then now they were on another project, so now that project is finished and they're wiring them currently. I'm not sure if they'll be back here tomorrow, but
Dan?
I noticed with the recent thaw that the Moran Street flooding has started again.
it has.
I'm hoping that the road commission keeps that scraped down before it freezes again.
I noticed today the grader was just out there just before this meeting. There's a bigger issue there, and I have talked with Jim Iwaniki about it, and he is looking at, we're going to have to suffer through the winter. He won't be able to do much until spring, but they are looking at doing a bore under the roadway to bring that water back where its natural flow was here before Moran Street was extended. So it will be a problem through the winter. One of the things that we're looking at, and I've asked Greg with our truck and with our plow, as they're running back and forth to Lions Field to put the plow down and try and keep as much of that ice off there as we can, because it does build up quickly and it really is a problem.
What else? That's it. We'll close out the manager's report, go to public comment. Anyone wishing to make public comment at this time? Seeing none. Additional comments from board members?
Merry Christmas.
I have a Merry Christmas, enjoy yourself, and remember Happy New Year's coming, and have a safe Happy New Year.
Secretary?
Same sentiments. Everyone be safe out there. Holidays are coming, and stores and everything too. They're going to be pretty busy the next few weeks. So be safe and have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Dan? Pete?
Do you have anything on the fire departments this weekend? Are you going to make any comments on that?
Nope.
I just think they should be commended. What happened the other day, some of them 17 hours out there. And then we have another one up on US 41. I said, the residents should be very proud of how they reacted in that. So, and saying that, and I'd just like to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thanks, Pete. Since Pete brought that out, I will comment just that I was contacted very early Saturday morning by Matt Johnson, representative from Eagle Mine, after the truck had run into the ditch on County Road 550 up near Wetmore's Landing, to let me know. I mean, our fire department had already been on the scene by that time. It happened at about 3 or 4 in the morning. Matt called me first thing in the morning to just to let me know what their efforts were to clean it up, what exactly and how much had spilled, some of the ore that had come out. They referred to it as about 5-gallon buckets of ore that had come out of the truck when it went into the ditch. They also, the driver had stated that he had swerved to avoid a deer. That is certainly not Eagle Mine's policy. In fact, I told him that when I was in the petroleum business and we were running full loads of fuel, 8,300 gallons of fuel in a truck, those were called grenades because you didn't hit the brakes, you didn't swerve, you are carrying a full load, you just keep moving. And you know, they were investigating it. The driver was immediately sent to be drug and alcohol tested. Certainly, I would just say hats off to Eagle Mine in the way they handled their response. I know that there certainly is a lot of folks out there who have some concerns about loaded ore trucks moving through the community, and we certainly share that concern. But I would say that this event showed that accidents can happen, number one, but they didn't run or try to hide from it. They stepped up to the plate, contacted everyone immediately, and I thought they handled it very well and professionally. That having been said, Ernie, you had something else? Or?
No, I thought better.
Okay. So everyone already said Merry Christmas, so I'll say Haus Skyolawa and see you next year.
Motion to adjourn?
I would entertain that motion. We have a motion and support to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? This meeting is adjourned.